This is the podcast for lifestyle and design in Ottawa. Intimate stories from our guests, an opportunity to discover hidden gems, share and get advice, recommendations, and more. All designed to help you be the best you that you can be. Your host from OttawaDesigners.com, Cindria Blench.
Hi, Lianne. How are you? You're on OttawaDesigners.com. Welcome. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here.
I wanted to really touch base because you've been on TV with everyone and we've seen you every day on CTV. And we're all wondering how you decided to switch from TV to opening your podcast, going with that, and now taking on a role as executive director of the Heart Institute and the VP for philanthropy at the Heart Institute. That's a huge switch. And I need to know a little history on what happened.
I think sometimes it's really about understanding that the universe has a unique way of making things just work in the right direction. I had an amazing 20-year career, which originally started with like CHRO and then the new RO and A Channel and then A Morning and then CTV Morning Live. But essentially, I was 20 years with the same company and I grew up on television. Like I loved it. I loved covering sports for the 10 years that I was a sports anchor. I cherished my time as the main host of CTV Morning Live. And I really felt like I was completely ingrained in the city. I knew all of the events, all the charities, all the fundraisers, the businesses. I loved it. But I was also getting up at 3:30 in the morning. I have two daughters in competitive sports. Yeah. You know, and so you kind of get to that point where, you know, I'm getting up at 3:30. I'm not home from practice or the fields until 9:00 at night. I've been on the go, like straight through. People used to think we showed up like right before the show started and then we're back in bed afterwards. Like the day went from 3:30 in the morning right through until 10:00 at night.
That's
and
hard
I was doing
on the body
that
too.
Right. And for me, and still staying physically fit and getting in my workout every day and being a good mom and getting everything done and doing all the carpools. I mean, and I had an incredibly supportive husband.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Right? But and it just got to the point where I found like I was on Groundhog Day. It just felt like I was repeating things and I was starting to see a lot of things the glass was always half empty. I was always like calculating if it was worth the time. Would I get, you know, I just started weighing everything that it was happening in my life. And it got to the point where I just felt like there was nothing left for me to do. I had gone as far as I could. And I made the really kind of scary, frightening decision that I just trusted my gut, that I knew that there was more. And at that time I was 42. And I just felt like I had enough energy to launch myself all over again, you know, that I still had 20 years of something else that was ahead of me and that this was the time to be able to do it. And it was terrifying. I mean, that kept me up at night and there was a lot of things involved in that, but you know, I look back on it now.
How did you pitch that to your daughters and husband, saying that you were going to do this switch, that they must have been shocked as well?
Well, my husband called my life the life ruiner. He called that job the life ruiner because I was always exhausted. Like I was sleep deprived. Our hours weren't like normal hours. So I have to say, my husband was beyond thrilled. And I think my kids were ready. They had never had me at home in the morning. Like my husband was super dad. Like he got the kids out the door, like I was always there to pick them up, but I was never there in the morning. So there was an excitement for them that I was home. And I think because it's been almost 3 years now, I'm incredibly proud of the message that I gave to my daughters, that to trust in your ability, to trust that you can take a leap of faith. And they saw me work incredibly hard over the last 2 and a bit years to reemerge. It was kind of like I was like a caterpillar, and I kind of have spent the last 2 years in that chrysalis stage of really trying to figure out how I wanted to come out. And I think more than anything, I'm most proud of that as a parent, to be able to show that to my girls, that you don't need to live the status quo and that you can work hard and believe in yourself. And that's something, if you have the right attitude, that it will pay off. So
that's huge.
I think it was probably one of the best lessons I could have taught my daughters.
Absolutely. That's really empowering to be able to do something, especially at a different time in your life. Sometimes people are thinking of calming down during that stage and you're ready to go again. So while you were working, interviewing people, did you find that doing the switch from podcast gave you more liberty to actually get into more in-depth conversations with people and gave you the liberty to ask what you felt versus kind of being dictated into your path?
Well, absolutely. And I remember those last couple of years when I was on set and, I would have these topics. And a lot of people know I'm passionate about health and wellness. And so they could always tell when I had like doctors or nutritionists or health and wellness people. I loved those guests because I just loved the information that we could share. And I always felt so handcuffed by the 4-minute time slot. I mean, everything on a morning show is like 3.5 to 4 minutes. And that's as much time as you get. And everything that I did in sports, it was like a minute and a half for the 6 o'clock news. So everything I always did was so condensed. And I always felt like there was so much more to the story. And I would be talking to the guests and they had so much to offer. And I would be like, we've got to stick with these 3 points because we have 4 minutes. And so I remember sitting there as I was developing the idea for my podcast as to how I wanted to have these long form interviews to really dive deep into how people ended up in the positions that they were in the study in the background, and then really give people the information to be able to live better lives. Like the whole point of the Living Your Life with Lianne Laing podcast was about just inspiring people to live healthier, better lives so that they can enjoy
Absolutely.
it.
So this matters
and
to
so that
you.
was really the point.
Absolutely. So this matters to you. And I'm
it was
assuming
everything to me.
your daughters obviously must be into health and wellness. And then I see videos of your mom who's also into health and wellness. So why did health and wellness become so important to you as a message to tell to people? What was the big deciding factor that you wanted to work at the Heart Institute?
Well, you know what? I've always grown up with health and wellness as being at the forefront. My mom at 70 something, you see the videos I post on Instagram. I mean, it was part of her life. I was an elite athlete. So from the time I was 6, I was training 4 hours a day competitively at a sport. The same is with my daughters. You need to be able to have that balance of intellectual, mental, physical well-being. And I really look at people and I feel like if you want to be able to get the most out of life, you need to be able to have a healthy body to be able to do it and a healthy mindset. And people struggle so much. And I also went through the experience of having my dad. My dad was 57 years old when he died of a heart attack just 2 weeks before my wedding.
Wow.
And I look at all the things that he had planned to do, right? He was going to golf and he was going to do, and the reality is that without his health, none of it mattered. No matter what he had saved for, no matter what he had planned for, what he was doing that day was going to dictate what he may have envisioned in the future. And there were times he didn't take, I knew better. Right. And so for me, it's like people are always thinking of all these other things. And I always feel like the only investment that matters is this the investment of our,
of our health,
our bodies.
Absolutely.
And that we can have them in a certain state where we could enjoy so much more of life if we're healthy.
Absolutely.
And I don't see eating healthy or going for exercise as, I know that I'm bringing like good things to my body that are allowing me to hopefully enjoy life that much longer.
So then what is your message for health and wellness?
For me to come into this role at the Heart Institute, for me, it's like you have, the only thing that we have right now is time. Right? Whatever time that we are given to experience this life, and we are given one vehicle. Like we have, we can't trade in. It's like we're a car. Like you cannot trade in your car for something better. So you have got to work with what you've got. So it's got to be oiled and it's got to be driven. And it's like, and I truly, from my own personal thing, think we need to be able to take care of ourselves first so that we can be better mothers, daughters, wives, partners. Like, I feel like we often skip that step, and it's for me, it's the most important. And so as I got recruited into this job, which I'll let you know, yes, it is the least selfish thing we can do. It used to drive me nuts. And I love my girlfriends and I love all the mom groups out there. And I know that they exist and and the thing is like everyone feels so much guilt
Yeah.
taking care of themselves, taking time out of the day for themselves. And it drives me nuts because I always want to shake them and say, if you're
Yeah.
not in
That's it.
optimal form, it doesn't matter what you're doing for your kids or what your
Absolutely.
kids are seeing, because they're seeing a tired, food craving, sneaking food in the middle of the
Yeah.
night, lazy, like there's a
Unhealthy
part. Yes.
mindset.
And
And
so are
you're
you
showing that
not
example. Exactly. You
right?
have
And
to
my kids
represent that
know.
yourself. Oh,
Yes.
you have a great example of that. It's
Like my
fantastic. It's
kids
inspiring. Even
know.
I'm pretty health and I'm into fitness myself. And when I watch your videos on the podcast, I was always saying, good for her doing flips and back flips at this age. That's
Yeah,
very
that, yeah.
inspiring.
I'm
I
feeling
can't
by the
do
time
that.
I'm 50. By the
Keep
time I'm
going.
50, I hope I can still do them. But
For sure.
but I feel like it's a better example to set by
Absolutely.
showing our children that we need to take care of ourselves, and by taking care of ourselves, we're becoming better mothers, better
Yep.
partners, and so my kids know. And I think a big switch in the transition that I've had, the 2.5, almost 3 years now from the time I left television to this job, is I really found the time for some spirituality, some meditation,
Okay.
which I always skipped before. I was like, I eat healthy, I take care of myself, I exercise, like I don't have time for the mental side of things.
Yeah.
And when I started seeing that shift and I started to meditate and to try to just stay still, because my head was going in 1,000 different directions when I left television,
Yeah.
going, oh my God, I got to do this. I got to do this. I got to do this. I didn't do this. I didn't email this person. I didn't, like, as an entrepreneur, I started to get ahead of myself, and
Yeah.
I finally took up meditation. And I think
Huge.
that was the game changer
How were you
for all of it.
introduced to that?
Yeah.
How were you
I
introduced to
think
it?
I will be honest, I learned so much from my podcast guests. Like sometimes I think I selfishly was just, the conversations a lot of the time I felt were just me so fascinated by these people or what they did or how they the science behind it, that I started to really listen to my podcast guests. And I think I probably had about 3 or 4 over a short amount of time. Breath, and these were like big
Okay.
authors and doctors and
Yeah.
scientists. And I finally just said, everyone, why am I missing this component? And once I switched into introducing that into my life, I'm much of an equal component to everything else. And so I do a daily meditation, and my kids, I'll always say I'm going to do my meds. And it allowed me to live in a world of being in gratitude much more than I was before.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. So then a simple step for everybody to take care of themselves. If you were to come up with 5 things that people can do every day, someone can grab a hold of, how does a person, a regular Joe Blow, walk around and get better health every day? Simple steps.
Well, first off, they have to stop getting up that day and saying, I'll do it tomorrow.
Yes.
Tomorrow,
Accountability.
sometimes tomorrow doesn't come and it's too late. And that was the case with my dad. He kept saying, I'm going to start with the trainer next week, and he didn't. And I kick myself for that. I think I'm angry at myself that I didn't pick up on the signs of that. For me,
I'm sorry
I'll
for
tell
your
you what.
loss, by the
Oh,
way.
it's,
with that.
well, it's
It's
been
a
18
huge
years,
loss.
so I can finally say it without,
Yeah.
usually I can say it without crying. Depends on when you get me. But I do have photos all over my desk here at the Heart Institute, because I think it's that in it,
remind
like
you.
I said, it's the universe working in
Full circle.
certain ways. I was meant to land here. But the one thing that I've learned to do from the meditations and stuff is, before my feet even hit the ground in the morning, I make sure that my feet don't hit the ground when I roll out of bed, and then I'm able to sit for a second. And before I place my feet down on the floor, I tell myself this is going to be a really good day. Even if I'm
Wow.
exhausted or I'm tired or anything, I start the day planting my feet down with that saying in my head, it's going to be a great day.
I love
And then
that.
from there, it's kind of like a free for all. But I've always been really good at, listen, I'm not going to preach right now, but we eat healthy. I
Yeah.
love my chips and dip, and I love and I eat it. Everyone's like,
Moderation.
and I'm like, I eat it, but I eat it in modification. Like everything is in moderation. Eat
Yeah.
healthy. And I really believe that the daily exercise is, and not even look at it as exercise, is look at it as physical activity, like walking
Yeah.
or like, it doesn't have to be this hardcore going, like, like these hit intense workouts. It's being able to move your body. I think
Are there
finding places where there's joy.
Are there any books or any websites that you found solace in, or you found really great abilities to educate yourself to be healthier?
Yeah, absolutely. And it was interesting because the more I expanded in into that world, the more open and the more people I came across, starting with the meditation, was Michael Singer, and it was the untethered soul. So the untethered soul became like my launch point into the world of a bit more
of health. And now, when do you have certain foods? And is there certain foods that you go to when you get munchies?
Ended up here because you open yourself up to just to accept like so. For me, I always go to the dips, but I'll take like a couple of like the chips and dip, and I go to where it's dip.
That's funny. And what about for ice creams and desserts and stuff like that? Are there healthy substitutes, being at the Heart Institute, that you can name off? Because I know now everyone's at home and COVID is allowing for everyone to put on that freshman 10, but instead it's the COVID 10. Are there healthy snacks for the kids?
Guys, I've been gone. I've been like on a blank screen for the last probably 3 minutes.
Oh, or John, she's gone.
We can edit that, but we've always got an internet problem.
Oh,
yeah. Okay, so I've lost.
I suspect your kids are gaming or something.
I'm sorry?
I suspect your kids are probably gaming or something.
I don't think so, but I'll check. I can see.
Hey, John.
Nope.
Hey, Lianne.
Hey, okay, so I'm just gonna let you know, I stopped, like as soon as she asked me something about like my food, like foods, I lost it.
I want to pick it up at your go-to book.
Yeah, go-to book.
Okay.
So exactly. The book is perfect.
I'll edit it from there.
Okay, so we'll go back to the book.
Okay.
Tell me when you're ready.
Do you want to start that? So just after I finish talking about that book?
No, just start with, I'll ask you, are there any books or websites? And then start there because we didn't hear anything.
Perfect.
So are there any books or any websites that you could tell the viewer about that have really motivated you or inspired you or helped you with your meditation, health?
Yeah, I think so. The first book that I was introduced to was The Untethered Soul, Michael A. Singer. And I think it was definitely one of my podcast guests who had recommended the book. And it was really a wonderful introduction into how I wanted to approach the meditation, or just finding the time to silence the craziness in the mind. There's always this voice talking to you all the time. And it's usually negative, and it's usually like, what if, or it's usually I should have. And so it was all about the inner voice in our head and how to be able to calm it, so that you can just let it, so it shuts up. And so that was my first introduction, and I loved that book. And then I read his second one, which is called The Surrender Experiment, which I loved, and I just loved the sense of it. And then I kind of got into other ones. I found Gabrielle Bernstein, The Super Attractor. She was more of on the spirituality side. And I just actually finished Rocky Sharma's book, The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. I loved it.
Good one.
It's a great book. And another one that I really enjoyed was Dan Harris, 10% Happier, just because he's a journalist and living the very similar lives. Well, actually, no, because he was like covering war zones. But I really enjoy those kinds of books.
No. Just to interrupt you, sorry. Have you ever had desire to go and do like a Barbara Walters type?
Barbara
interview?
Walters, absolutely. But hard news, no. For the 20 years I spent in that newsroom, the police scanners would go off, and my immediate reaction was, there's someone who's in pain. There's someone whose life has just altered. And then another person, a hardcore journalist, would be like, there's our top story. Right. Yeah. So I've always been, on the lifestyle, on
Yeah.
the other side of the storytelling. For me, it's the storytelling. It's not, the 6 o'clock top headlines were never really not my thing. So no, I mean, would I have loved to be like a Barbara Walters? Because because she interviews the most fascinating people. Did I want to be in a war zone? No. The adrenaline and junkie in me was not looking for that.
Not that. And what about vision boards? Did you have vision boards at a young age or older? Do you still have that? Or do you believe in, the atmosphere is or the world is gonna put you where you're supposed to be?
I do. I understand why people do the vision boards. Like I understand that concept. For me, I haven't done that. For me, it's about the energy that you put out. It's the type of energy that you're putting out into the world is what I'm going to get back. I think because I was an athlete and because I needed to visualize so much as an elite athlete, visualization was constantly there so I could do the tricks that I needed to do.
Yeah.
I think I have a great capability of just visualizing in my head how I see something happening, like how I could see myself going to do something and it being successful. So I have the ability to see a positive outcome when I sit down to envision something. But I've never cut and pasted and put a board on and kind of look at it that way.
And where do you now see yourself going in this world in the next 5 years? You're in this crazy, amazing position, exactly where you should be. I mean, VP of philanthropy and then executive director of the Heart Institute are pretty awesome titles. So where do you go from here?
Okay, well, it's the Heart Institute Foundation, which is, we're an extension. We are the foundation that raises money for the Heart Institute. I think what was beautiful about this partnership and why they came to me was that there's a real honesty in the storytelling of the why of people. When I'm looking at the work and the patients that are coming out of the Heart Institute, they are incredibly grateful because they have really been given the gift of time. Their lives have been saved by the work that has been done here. And there's a massive component to health and wellness and recovery. And I think a big thing is prevention, as preventing anyone from having to use the facilities here. And so it's the storytelling, it's the communication for me. I'm grateful that I have the network that I do here because I've been in the city for so long. And so there's so many different things that work. I mean, I'm realizing now I'm about 4 and a bit months into the job. There's a pressure, I'm doing fundraising in the middle of a global pandemic. There's a lot of things that are coming, but I think long-term, the ability to, create new messaging, to create an awareness, especially around women's heart health. Heart disease is the number one killer of women in Canada. And so, which is 80% preventable. So when I talk about taking care of yourself and having a healthy diet and doing the exercise and keeping your heart health healthy, I'm serious, I'm passionate about it. So there's a wonderful ability to take what I'm passionate about, the assets that I bring to the job, and then the amazing reputation, the world-renowned reputation of the Ottawa Heart Institute and the work that they do. So I'm working with brilliant surgeons and cardiologists every day and trying to be able to find the right tools, because the research is really the biggest component now to the work that's being done. And it's understanding that today's research is tomorrow's treatment, and seeing it actually come to fruition. It's been pretty cool.
And how can we help you as a community to help the Heart Institute? How can people throw fundraisers at one point? Can there be online things? How can people volunteer? How can people get involved at either bringing more awareness, like you said, maybe going into high schools and discussing heart health or things like that, or financial donations? How do people get a hold of you?
Well, listen, there's so much that is available. I mean, everything that they're looking to do here is about the fundraising component in terms of how can people immediately help. Listen, there's donations that are coming in, and it's wonderful to see that there are donations that come in every day from grateful patients and their families as to what's happened, and really people that are interested in science and in research. We see that happening. We just finished a massive campaign. It was called Jump In for Women's Heart Health, which really went from coast to coast across the country, really emphasizing women's heart health. So that was really great to see 2,000 participants in our first year just take part in 30 minutes of physical activity for 30 days in September. Awesome. And it generated an awareness around just getting into the habit of doing that. So, if people want to read the literature, we're at the the Ottawa Heart Institute Foundation. I mean, you Google us, there's so much involved. There's webinars, there's the prevention and wellness people, they put on great webinars of food and exercise. Like, there is so much available to people. They don't realize there's so much information available from people that are just trying to help and give you valued information so that you can have a healthier, better life. So,
absolutely. Now, I know with
pushing that out.
COVID, it's really made your job probably double as hard. I just threw a charity event and we literally had it in the week before all the restaurants got shut down again, which is terrible for obviously everyone. How are you changing your fundraising? I guess you can't have the runs outside and like these big galas right now. Do you have anything lined up for 2021 that is still in the plans?
Yeah.
Have you had to cancel things?
Oh, well, everything got canceled. Yeah. Like all 4 of our major events were canceled. And we have what is called Heart Month. February's Heart Month. And usually there are 30 to 40 third-party events that raise money for heart health over the course of February. So all of those have been canceled. So we've got some really fun things that we're working on here at our team, like our special events and community outreach team here, to be able to bring you some really fun things in February as part of our massive campaign. So we're in the works of bringing together. Everyone's had to think outside the box. We've had to go virtual. We do have a great virtual interactive webinar that's happening November, I want to say it's the 16th. November 16th at 7 p.m. And it's going back to my roots because I'm going back to hosting. But that's going to be on it. And if people are interested, we're looking at the legacy gifts. A lot of people are looking to know, how are we going to make an impact once we've moved on? And so we have a really interesting session with an estate attorney and with our Plan Giving to give people the information they need for that. So there's lots of different things that it's about giving people the information they need to make the decisions to better their lives.
Now, at what age? Because I mean, we don't care as much when we're younger. We think, we will go to our health and our heart later. This is an older person's problem. But at what age should men and women really start thinking about getting their heart checked? Maybe getting a stress test, things like that. Do you have to have a problem before you go and get tested for heart issues?
Well, I don't think so. I think, a lot of this comes down, the reality, 80% of heart disease is preventable with a healthy diet and exercise. So if people are cognizant of that they can be aware of getting out and going for a 30-minute walk and not downing the sugar and, and the salt. Like, there's so many just little things that I could mention right there. I think having the discussions with your physicians, I think, to be honest with you, is something that if it's affected people in your family, there's a genetic component. I'm fit and healthy and eat right and everything, but my father died at an early age of a heart attack. I'm very aware of that. And I'm aware that it's the number 1 killer of women. So it's something that I'm constantly aware of and making sure that things are in check. I think what surprises most people, and the stories that I've heard from most people, is that they didn't expect it to happen to them.
Yeah, of course.
That's right. That's the reality. So if you can get it checked, if you can check your cholesterol levels, if you can, I think for diabetics, it's even a bigger issue. So it's being informed. It's taking a step further in the education and understanding what you can do to help yourself. There's a lot of things that you can do that you don't need to be in a doctor's office for.
I agree. And the thing as well with heart attacks and stuff, as you may know as well, is what happens after the fact. There's also a lot of depression that can follow from having a heart attack, which is natural and stuff like that the Heart Institute helps people with. I know that they do counseling after and things like that, which are so that the family understands as well what has happened after there is a crisis. So that's really fantastic. When we leave this podcast, what are the messages that you would really like to leave the viewers with?
Cherish every moment. Try to live in gratitude. Like if I were to put in my request, and I think the more I think about it, I really am passionate. Like, I love seeing people take the first step towards living a better life. Like, that first step is so incredibly difficult, but I feel like I want to be holding that person's hands, because that first leap, Like I took that leap of faith the day I signed off from television and had no idea what that next step was going to be. It is such a difficult thing, but it is the most rewarding thing. So as difficult as it is, there's such a reward at the end of it. And I just wish that I could share what that feeling is like, because it's like you're terrified, and yet in the process, it's a really unique thing. And for people to understand that they can control so much more, and that it's okay to ask for help, and it's okay to have your bad days, and like there's so many things. But if you can trust in yourself that you have the ability inside, you have the energy within you to make the turn, then that's a really cool thing. And if you believe it, like I think you need to get rid of the negative in your head, the 95% that's
Believe
saying
in
I can't, and I
Take
should
the
have.
leap.
You got to just try to silence that part. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So now I'm going to end with just a few fun questions to lead off with. So your favorite street in Ottawa?
Colonel By.
Okay. Favorite restaurant?
Oh, I have to say right now it's Matty on Preston.
Ooh, that's a good one. Chocolate or vanilla?
Kind of like a combination. Like if you can like wrap them together, like I would be the swirl. Yeah.
Okay. Hamburgers or hot dogs?
Oh, like hamburgers, like fully loaded hamburger.
Okay. And most embarrassing memory you can remember quickly?
Oh, I got a lot. I have a lot.
The one I got yesterday from my viewer was pretty funny. So I can't wait to hear this one.
Oh gosh. Okay. One I think is 2X rated. I really
Go for it. It's a podcast.
Yeah. You know what? It is a podcast. But oh my goodness. So as a gymnast,
I can imagine where this is going.
They have to do with like leotards and time of the month,
Yeah, that's horrendous.
That was similar. Good?
Yeah, it's good. Okay. Yesterday it was the opposite. It was a little poop in the pants. So this is this. We're on the same tangent.
It comes down to like body parts and stuff too. But there's not a lot of place to hide. Like in the gymsuit, So I would say those would take the cake.
That's a good one. I would give you that one for sure.
Okay.
Thank you so much for being part of this. Your message is super important to me as well. My father as well had heart attacks and cardiac arrest. So thank you for sharing with the viewers. And I hope that everyone does get healthy, trusts in themselves, and follows their dreams and follows the universe and goes with it.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Good luck with your podcast. It's a great messaging, and I hope people kind of can take things from it. Enjoy it. It's a fun process. I'll tell you that.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.